10th CBSE Chemistry, Chapter Carbon and its Compounds. In this video, you will learn about saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbons and also know the differences between them. Saturated hydrocarbons. Saturated hydrocarbons are the compounds which have single bond between the carbon atoms in a carbon chain. Like for example, ethane. Ethane has the molecular formula C2H6. Let us now write the structure of ethane. So the first step is to write the carbon skeleton. We have two carbon atoms. So we write two carbon atoms with a covalent bond in between. And now recall that each carbon atom has four valencies. That is, it can form four bonds. So the first bond is already formed between the two carbon atoms, and each carbon atom now has three bonds to be satisfied, or three valencies to be satisfied. The second step is to write the hydrogen atoms. So we have six hydrogen here. Let us now assign the position for hydrogen atoms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Observe that each carbon is forming four bonds. The first bond between the two carbon atoms, and the rest of the three bonds are satisfied by hydrogen atoms. So it is the same with the second carbon also. Let us take one more example. Propane. The molecular formula C2C3H8. So let us first write the carbon skeleton with the three carbon atoms 1, 2 and 3. We already know that each carbon has four valencies. So the last carbon has 3. So the middle carbon has 2 more, because this carbon is forming bond with this carbon and this carbon. So first bond is here, second bond is here. So it has to satisfy 2 more valencies, that comes here. Now let us assign the hydrogens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All the three carbon atoms have their four valencies satisfied. So single covalent bond present between the atoms, carbon atoms. Such hydrocarbons in which the carbon atoms are connected by single bonds are called saturated hydrocarbons. Saturated hydrocarbons are generally called as alkanes and have a general molecular formula CnH2n plus 2, where N is the number of carbon atoms. If the carbon atom is 2, then we get the compound with the molecular formula C2H2n. So 2 into 2 plus 2. That in turn gives C2H6. Yes, and the compound is, it is ethane. Unsaturated hydrocarbons in turn are the hydrocarbons in which carbon atoms are connected only by double or triple bonds. Let us take an example for this to understand it better. It's ethene. Ethene has the molecular formula C2H4. Now let us write the structure of the ethene. So the first step is to write the carbon skeleton, and then it is the valencies. Now we see that there are four hydrogen atoms which we have to position: hydrogen, 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 hydrogen here. Note that there is one valency in each carbon atom which is unsatisfied. And this unsatisfied electrons pair up to form another bond between the two carbon atoms. Finally, we get the molecule like this, with a double bond between the two carbon atoms. One more example is of ethine. Ethine has the molecular formula C2H2. Note that the number of hydrogen atom has reduced to 2. So let us write the carbon skeleton first. Then it's 2 hydrogen distributed between the 2 carbon atoms, one for each. So one here, one here. There are 2 more valencies of each carbon atom to be satisfied. So this and this will pair up to give one more bond. This and this will pair up to give another bond. So we write the structure of ethine as CH triple bond CH. Observe that ethene and ethine both have 2 carbon atoms, but the number of hydrogen atom is different. Also observe that ethene has double bond whereas ethine has triple bond. These both are considered as unsaturated hydrocarbons. Unsaturated hydrocarbons hence are nothing but the hydrocarbons in which the carbon atoms are linked together by at least one double or triple bond. Unsaturated hydrocarbons are of two types. They are alkenes and alkynes. Alkenes have double bond whereas alkynes have triple bond in them. So ethene becomes an example for alkene whereas ethine becomes an example for alkynes. Alkenes have general molecular formula as CnH2n whereas alkynes have molecular formula CnH2n minus 2. Now let us recall things quickly. Saturated hydrocarbons are the carbon compounds which have carbon-carbon single bonds. Whereas in case of unsaturated hydrocarbons, we have carbon-carbon double bond or triple bond. Saturated hydrocarbons are also called as alkanes and they have general molecular formula as CnH2n plus 2. Whereas unsaturated hydrocarbons are of two types, alkenes with double bond and alkynes with triple bond. The general molecular formula is CnH2n for alkenes and CnH2n minus 2 for alkynes. In saturated hydrocarbons, we only find single bond, and because of this, these hydrocarbons are unreactive. Because of the presence of double bond and triple bond, unsaturated hydrocarbons become highly reactive. The name of saturated hydrocarbons end with ane. Like for example, methane, butane, propane and others. Unsaturated hydrocarbons end with ene if they have double bond and end with ine if they have triple bond. Like for example, ethene, propene and others for alkenes, ethyne, propyne, butane and others in case of alkynes. So these are the properties of saturated hydrocarbons and unsaturated hydrocarbons and also the difference between them. In this video, you learned about saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbons and also the differences between them.